Welcome back. I'm your host at Navy Legends, and I want to begin this one with a doctrine statement, not a classified document, a public one. In August 2020, the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force released the second edition of its Science of Rocket Force Operations, the foundational doctrinal text that governs how China's strategic missile forces conceptualize, plan, and execute strike operations. In that document, the PLA describes what it calls the system of systems confrontation, the idea that modern warfare is not a competition between individual weapons platforms, but a competition between integrated systems, and that victory goes to the force that can most effectively degrade the adversary's system while preserving the coherence of its own. The aircraft carrier, in PLA doctrinal thinking, is not primarily a military threat. It is the physical centerpiece of the U.S. Navy's system of systems architecture in the Pacific. Neutralize the carrier, not necessarily sink it, but degrade its ability to project combat power for a defined operational window. And you do not merely remove one ship. You remove the node that connects the air wing, the escort screen, the logistics chain, and the broader theater command network into a coherent whole. The PLA's carrier strike doctrine is not about sinking ships. It is about collapsing systems. On the morning of September 23, 2027, the PLA Rocket Force and PLA Navy executed the first operational test of that doctrine against a deployed U.S. carrier strike group. Not a simulation, not an exercise. A live engagement in the Taiwan Strait with weapons that the PLA had been developing, positioning, and rehearsing for 11 years. What happened in the following 78 minutes reshaped the deterrence calculus of every Pacific Rim nation with a security relationship with the United States. The date is September 23, 2027. The time is 4:17 local. The Taiwan Strait, approximately 142 nautical miles northwest of Kaohsiung and 210 nautical miles east of Fuzhou, Fujian Province. The USS Ronald Reagan, CVN-76, a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, is operating as the flagship of Carrier Strike Group 5, conducting a scheduled freedom of navigation transit through the Taiwan Strait in response to heightened PLA military pressure on Taiwan following a disputed legislative vote in Taipei 4 days prior. Her strike group includes the cruiser USS Chancellorsville, CG-62, positioned 16 nautical miles ahead on the northwestern threat axis, the destroyers USS Benfold, DDG-65, and USS Barry, DDG-52, on the northern and southern screening positions, and the destroyer USS Fitzgerald, DDG-62, on the eastern screen. The nuclear attack submarine USS Connecticut, SSN-22, is running submerged 31 nautical miles south of the surface group. The Reagan is launching. Her flight deck is active. 6 FA-18Fs from VFA 102 airborne on combat air patrol. 2 E-2D advanced Hawkeyes maintaining radar coverage in the northern and southern approach sectors. Her air wing's launch cycle has been continuous for 92 minutes. This is not a contingency posture. This is a deliberate demonstration of sustained air power projection in the Strait, timed to the diplomatic crisis, and intended to signal U.S. commitment to Taiwan's security through visible, sustained presence. At peak launch tempo, the Reagan's flight deck was the most complex industrial process afloat. 90 simultaneous activity streams managed by a crew of 5,000. The flight deck crew was performing at that peak when the PLA Rocket Force's targeting solution went final. The PLA Rocket Force's DF-26B intermediate-range ballistic missile, the anti-ship variant of the Dongfeng 26, has been publicly assessed by U.S. analysts since 2020 as China's primary long-range carrier targeting system. Its assessed range, 4,000 kilometers, covering the entire first and second island chain from launch positions in central China. Its assessed accuracy against a maneuvering carrier-sized target, a CEP of approximately 50 meters using its combined inertial, GPS, and passive radar terminal guidance. Its assessed warhead, a maneuvering re-entry vehicle, a MaRV, carrying a 1,200 to 1,800 kilogram conventional warhead with a terminal approach velocity between Mach 6 and Mach 7 in its final descent. The DF-26B's MaRV can execute lateral corrections of up to 25 nautical miles during its terminal phase, sufficient to track a carrier that has been maneuvering at 30 knots since launch detection. The PLA Rocket Force launched 6 DF-26B missiles from mobile TEL positions in Jiangxi Province at 4:17:08 local. 6 nearly simultaneous launches, the missile's boost phase burning through the pre-dawn sky above the Chinese interior and visible to USS BIRS satellite sensors within seconds of ignition. The launch was detected by the E-2D Hawkeye on the Northern Patrol Station at 4:17:22 and transmitted to the Reagan Strike Group on the Tactical Data Link 14 seconds later. 14 seconds after launch detection, the USS Chancellorsville's SPY-1B-V radar acquired all 6 tracks. The Aegis BMD combat system began computing engagement solutions in 3.4 seconds. The fire control picture was precise, but deeply uncomfortable. 6 DF-26B MaRVs, all on trajectories that converged on the Reagan's projected position, arriving in a compressed salvo window with an assessed time between first and last impact of approximately 19 seconds. A 19-second compressed salvo, designed to exhaust the Chancellorsville's SM-3 IIA engagement capacity before the last MaRV arrived. The Chancellorsville carried 24 SM-3 Block 2A rounds. Against 6 DF-26B MaRVs, doctrine called for a 2-round assignment per track. 12 rounds total for the first engagement. The remaining 12 rounds would provide backup capacity if any primary intercept failed and required a second attempt. At 4:17:51, the Chancellorsville began firing. SM-3 IIA rounds left her VLS in a sequence precisely computed to place each round in its assigned intercept corridor against its designated MaRV. The USS Benfold added 4 SM-3 IIA rounds from her own BMD inventory at 4:17:58, assigned to the eastern 2 tracks, where her engagement geometry provided a more favorable intercept angle. 28 SM-3 IIA rounds were in the air within 60 seconds of launch detection. The exo-atmospheric engagement occurred above the Taiwan Strait and the adjacent Pacific between 4:21 and 4:22. The engagement geometry was demanding. 6 MaRVs in 19 seconds, all maneuvering, all tracking the Reagan's position. The Chancellorsville's fire control system was processing 6 simultaneous track updates, each MaRV executing its terminal guidance corrections, while the SM-3 IIA KKVs closed at combined approach velocities exceeding 10 kilometers per second. 4 intercepts were clean. The SM-3 IIA KKVs achieved direct body-to-body impacts on their assigned MaRVs at altitudes between 78 and 94 kilometers, reducing 4 of the 6 warhead sections to fragments that posed no further threat. 1 intercept was partial. The KKV struck the MaRV's aft guidance section rather than its warhead, destroying the guidance electronics and inducing a tumble, but leaving the warhead section intact on a degraded ballistic trajectory. 1 intercept missed. The MaRV had executed a larger terminal maneuver than the assessed envelope, placing it 310 meters outside the KKV's terminal correction capability at the moment of closest approach. 2 warhead sections uncontrolled, 1 tumbling on a degraded trajectory, 1 fully intact and still partially guided on its terminal correction authority. The guidance electronics were gone, but the MaRV's aerodynamic stability maintained a rough ballistic heading toward the Reagan's last known datum. The Reagan was maneuvering at 31 knots, maximum rudder, attempting to move her 97,000-ton hull as far as possible from the computed impact ellipses. The flight deck launch operations had been suspended at 4:17:38, 16 seconds after launch detection, with aircraft already on catapults ordered to stand by and aircraft in the landing pattern directed to divert to airfields in Taiwan and the Philippines. The flight deck crew, 280 sailors who had been managing the peak tempo launch cycle, was now executing the collision and ballistic impact station's bill, manning the ship's damage control readiness structure in the 90 seconds remaining before the MaRV impacts. The first warhead section, the tumbling one, impacted the sea at 4:22:04, 2,140 meters northwest of the Reagan. At Mach 4.8 and tumbling, the section's terminal velocity was lower than a guided impact, but still sufficient to produce a substantial water impact event. The water column reached 160 meters. The pressure wave reached the Reagan as a 0.3 G impulse, detectable, logged, inconsequential to ship systems. The SM-6 engagement of the second surviving MaRV, the one whose guidance was intact, occurred at 4:22:09. The USS Barry, positioned on the southern screen, had been assigned 2 SM-6 rounds against this track in a firing solution computed by the Chancellorsville's fire control system and transmitted by data link. The SM-6's active seeker acquired the descending MaRV at 31 kilometers altitude. The round corrected. The intercept geometry was not optimal. The Barry's firing position placed her SM-6 on an approach angle that gave the MaRV a near tail-on radar aspect, reducing the SM-6's seeker acquisition advantage. The first SM-6 detonated in proximity at 19 meters from the MaRV's nose section. The fragmentation pattern destroyed the terminal optical sensor array that the MaRV used for final aim point correction. The MaRV continued on its aerodynamic ballistic path, still shaped by the glide vehicle's remaining aerodynamic stability, but without optical final correction. The second SM-6 round, the backup, acquired the now blinded MaRV at 14 kilometers altitude and achieved a second proximity detonation at 8 meters. The double proximity engagement reduced the MaRV's guidance electronics to fragments. The warhead section, still intact, fell on its aerodynamic ballistic trajectory. Reagan was now 1.8 nautical miles from the computed impact point and still maneuvering. The warhead section, 1,400 kilograms of conventional explosive at Mach 5.1, impacted the Taiwan Strait at 4:22:31, 640 meters off the Reagan's port beam. 640 meters. At 640 meters, the impact of 1,400 kilograms of conventional warhead detonating on water contact. The impact fuse had initiated on the water surface, produced an energy release equivalent to approximately 1,900 kilograms of TNT at standoff distance. The blast wave and pressure pulse reached the Reagan's hull as a 2.8 G shock impulse, the most severe shock event experienced by any U.S. naval vessel since the USS Cole's 2000 attack. On the Reagan's flight deck, 2 FA-18Fs that had not yet been moved to the hangar bay were on the deck edge, aft of the island, spotted for the next launch cycle. Both aircraft were secured to the deck with 8 tie-down chains each. The 2.8-gram shock impulse was sufficient to overcome the tie-down tension on both aircraft simultaneously, a dynamic shock load that the structural analysis had not modeled as likely at this standoff range. Both aircraft shifted 0.4 meters laterally toward the port deck edge before their remaining chains arrested the movement. Neither aircraft went over the side. One sustained damage to its port landing gear strut from the shift, assessed as not flight-worthy pending inspection. The other was undamaged. In the carrier's Combat Direction Center, 12 display consoles lost power simultaneously, not from a direct hit, but from the shock-induced failure of 3 separate power distribution panels that had not been secured against the dynamic load. Emergency power restored the displays within 8.7 seconds. In the engineering spaces below the waterline, the shock propagated through the ship's framing as a structural wave that cracked 3 hydraulic fittings in the port auxiliary machinery space and fractured a steam supply valve in the number 2 machinery space. The steam fracture triggered an automatic isolation that reduced the ship's port engineering plant to reduced power output. Not a propulsion emergency, but a casualty that required engineering response. 29 sailors sustained injuries across the Reagan and her screen ships from the shock event. On the Reagan herself, 14 sailors were injured. The most severe was a damage control technician in the forward damage control equipment locker, who was thrown against a fire hose rack with sufficient force to sustain 3 fractured ribs and a pneumothorax, requiring immediate medical intervention. She was in the carrier's surgical suite within 11 minutes. The Reagan's commanding officer's immediate calls after the shock event established the damage picture in under 4 minutes. The ship was maneuvering. Her propulsion was at 80% on the port plant and 100% on the starboard. Her flight deck was secure. Her air wing, the aircraft already airborne, was operating normally. Her VLS was intact. The combat system was operational. The carrier was damaged, not disabled. At 4:28, 11 minutes after the DF-26B launches, the Chancellorsville's radar registered the second phase of the engagement. Not ballistic. Surface, bearing 290 degrees from the direction of the Fujian coast. 41 contacts. Small, fast, accelerating. RCS consistent with Plan CH-FS autonomous surface vehicle, the same type that had been employed against USS Shiloh in the Taiwan Strait 8 months prior. The vehicles were at 34 nautical miles and accelerating toward 28 knots. 41 autonomous surface vehicles. Their intended role in the PLA's operational plan was explicit to any analyst who had studied the PLA's System of Systems doctrine. While the DF-26B strike created the shock event and disrupted the carrier's flight operations, the USV swarm would exploit the post-shock damage control window. The period when the carrier's crew was focused on casualties, damage assessment, and systems restoration, to approach within YJ-9E missile launch range and execute a secondary anti-ship missile strike against the Reagan's flight deck from a bearing the carrier's defensive systems, already partially disrupted, would struggle to fully address. The PLA had been developing this combined DF-26B plus USV doctrine for 3 years. September 23, 2027 was the first operational test. The strike group's response to the USV contact was immediate and multi-layered. The Reagan's air wing, the F/A-18Fs already airborne on combat air patrol, was tasked to the surface engagement at 4:29:14. The Chancellorsville and Benfold opened fire with their 5-inch guns at 04:29:31 against the contacts now at 31 nautical miles. The Fitzgerald, repositioning from the eastern screen to support the western threat axis, launched ESSM rounds in a long-range engagement sequence beginning at 4:30:08. The F/A-18Fs arrived over the USV swarm at 4:33:17. 4 aircraft, each carrying 2 AGM-65 Maverick air-to-surface missiles for direct engagement of surface contacts, and 2 AGM-84 Harpoon rounds for standoff anti-surface engagement. The air-to-surface engagement attracted 14 USV contacts in the first 4 minutes. Maverick and Harpoon strikes systematically reducing the swarm from 41 contacts to 27, then to 22, then to 17 as additional aircraft from the Reagan's Combat Air Patrol rotated into the engagement area. The 5-inch guns, ESSM rounds, and the arriving F/A-18Fs reduced the active USV count to 9 contacts by 04:41. Still 17 nautical miles from the Reagan, still approaching. At 4:42:03, the 9 remaining contacts reached YJ-9E launch range threshold. 5 contacts fired, launching 2 YJ-9E rounds each 10 missiles in the air. 4 contacts held back, their autonomous fire control logic assessing that the electronic jamming from the Reagan's SLQ-32V6 system had disrupted their targeting data link sufficiently to require closer approach before confident engagement. 10 YJ-9E sea-skimming missiles at 17 nautical miles from the Reagan. The ESSM layer engaged, 8 rounds from the Chancellorsville and 4 from the Fitzgerald, in a coordinated fire sequence that neutralized 8 of the 10 missiles in the outer engagement layer. The Reagan's own ram launchers, her primary self-defense missiles, engaged the remaining 2 at 4.1 nautical miles. First ram round impacted the closer YJ-9E at 3.2 nautical miles, clean neutralization. Second ram round impacted the farther YJ-9E at 3.4 nautical miles. Both missiles neutralized. The 4 USV contacts that had held back, still approaching, now at 11 nautical miles, were engaged by the Fitzgerald's 5-inch gun and 2 additional F/A 18F Maverick strikes at 4:44. All 4 were rendered inoperable within 6 minutes. The surface phase of the engagement was over at 4:50:33. 41 USV contacts, all 41 neutralized or rendered inoperable. 10 YJ-9E missiles, all 10 intercepted. Total engagement duration from first USV detection to last contact, 22 minutes and 33 seconds. The Reagan's retaliatory authorization came from the strike group commander at 4:44, 27 minutes after the DF-26B launches. The target package had been pre-built and pre-loaded against 3 target categories. The DF-26B TEL operating areas in Jiangxi Province, the CHF-SUSV Forward Deployment Facility at Dongshan Island, and the PLA Rocket Force Command and Control Node at Fuzhou that had coordinated the September 23rd strike. At 5:03:17, 12 Tomahawk Block 5 rounds from the Chancellorsville, Benfold, and Fitzgerald left their VLS tubes on trajectories computed to avoid Chinese territorial airspace, as defined by international law, while reaching their designated aim points through the available overwater approach corridors. Flight times ranged from 44 to 61 minutes, depending on target location. The DF-26B TEL engagement produced results consistent with the pattern established in previous strike campaigns. 2 of 4 designated TEL positions were confirmed occupied by pre-strike imagery. Both were successfully struck. 2 positions showed no vehicles present. Post-strike reconnaissance imagery confirmed the absence of TEL vehicles at both unoccupied positions, consistent with pre-launch dispersal in the hours preceding the September 23rd operation. The PLA Rocket Force's dispersal protocols, which call for TEL vehicles to move to alternate firing positions within 4 hours of a strike operation launch, had been executed before the U.S. retaliatory fires arrived. 2 launchers had fired their DF-26Bs and relocated. Their new positions were not on the targeting list. The Dongshan Island USV facility sustained 4 Tomahawk impacts across its pier complex, vehicle assembly building, and communications shelter. Post-strike imagery showed all 4 aim points with confirmed impact effects. The pier infrastructure was assessed as rendered inoperable. The assembly building's roof structure was collapsed across its primary work area. Whether the facility's remaining CHFS vehicles had been moved to dispersed positions before the strike was not determinable from imagery. The Fuzhou command node sustained 2 Tomahawk impacts at 06:04. Post-strike signals intelligence showed a cessation of the operational communications traffic associated with the facility within 6 seconds of the first impact. No resumption was detected from this facility in the 96 hours following the strike. Either the facility's staff had not survived the impact, or the backup command architecture was activated from a location the U.S. signals intelligence had not previously mapped. A new signals pattern, assessed as a PLA Rocket Force command emission, appeared on a frequency not previously associated with Fuzhou operations at 0641. 37 minutes after the strike. Its geographic origin could not be pinpointed with available collection. In Beijing, the People's Daily published an editorial at 8 a.m. local, calling the events a necessary response to U.S. provocations and characterizing the DF-26B launch as a precision demonstration. It noted the Reagan remains afloat, parsed by U.S. analysts as a deliberate signal that the PLA had demonstrated strike capability without seeking to sink the carrier. The editorial did not acknowledge the USV swarm or the retaliatory Tomahawk strikes. Taiwan formally invoked the mutual consultation provisions of the U.S.-Taiwan Relations Act. Japan's self-defense forces went to elevated readiness. South Korea recalled its UN ambassador. The G7 foreign ministers held an emergency teleconference. The Taiwan Strait was operationally closed to commercial shipping for 17 hours, while the U.S. Navy assessed the underwater ordnance environment from the MaRV water impacts. Here at Navy Legends, September 23, 2027, is the day that the PLA Rocket Force's carrier strike doctrine moved from classified assessment to operational reality. The DF-26B performed within its assessed parameters: 6 missiles, 4 clean intercepts, 1 partial, 1 miss, 1 warhead detonation at 640 meters. The combined DF-26B plus USV operational concept demonstrated that the PLA had integrated its long-range strike capability with its autonomous surface vessel force into a coherent sequential attack designed to exploit the post-shock window. Both elements performed. Neither element achieved its maximum designed effect. The MaRV did not impact the carrier's flight deck. The USV-launched YJ-9E missiles did not reach the carrier's hull. But the engagement produced a 2.8-gram shock event that moved aircraft on the flight deck, cracked hydraulic fittings throughout the engineering spaces, injured 29 sailors, and demonstrated to every nation in the Pacific that a U.S. carrier operating within the first island chain is within the lethal envelope of PLA Rocket Force systems, whose accuracy, range, and terminal guidance the September 23rd engagement has now validated in operational conditions. The Reagan returned to Yokosuka Naval Base for damage assessment and repair on October 1st. She was returned to operational status on October 19th. For 26 days, the United States Navy had 1 fewer carrier available in the Western Pacific. The PLA did not need to sink the Reagan to achieve an operational effect. They needed to put her in port for 26 days. And at 640 meters standoff, 1 clean DF-26B impact away from the flight deck. They came measurably close to extending that absence from 26 days to considerably longer. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. I'll see you in the next one.